For our next on topic, actor Bong Navarro has been released from the Taguig City Jail after the court allowed him to post bail in relation to the rape case filed against the It's Showtime host. Now joining us this morning, we have Attorney Alma Malyonga, Bong Navarro's lawyer. Attorney Malyonga, good morning to you.
Good morning, Karen. I'm glad to be back on your program.
All right. A bail of 1 million pesos. I want to ask you, was your camp surprised that he was granted bail?
You know, we were always confident about the facts and the law in this case. To be very, very frank, I could not imagine how rape could not be granted, especially after we held hearings. And after I had the opportunity to cross-examine not only the other two witnesses for the prosecution, but Ms. Denise Cornejo herself. And as you know, in rape cases, the most important witness is actually the rape victim herself. And we had actually been urging the prosecution to present Ms. Denise Cornejo at the earliest possible time. They had 5 witnesses. I was always consistently saying, please present the complainant herself, please present Denise herself, because everything would stand or fall based on her testimony. And we did have the opportunity to cross-examine Ms. Denise Cornejo. I did so in 2 hearings. Her cross-examination took 2 days to complete.
And well, the judge in her decision said that there are notable inconsistencies in the testimony of the private complainant, and the judge said this cannot be ignored. So would you say that with a judge essentially granting bail and issuing this statement, that it has weakened the case against Bong Navarro?
To my mind, to be very honest, I think the testimony of Denise, being what it was, the testimony she offered can no longer be changed. The facts are as they are, as laid out by her. And since her testimony was riddled with inconsistencies, her testimony was not only based on what she currently said. She was confronted with multiple sworn declarations that she had made in the course of
in the past.
In the past, this included, for example, the 3 complaints that the court thought was most important, although there were more that we confronted Ms. Denise Cornejo with, was her first complaint affidavit dated January 29, 2014, where she said no rape occurred. She actually did not mention any rape that had happened on January 17. On the contrary, she said they met at that date.
And she said, meaning she said that particular statement in a sworn affidavit, no rape occurred. Sinabi niya yun as is.
Actually, their explanation is that she just forgot to mention it. In the same way that she repeated the same allegation, narration of what happened on January 17, that Bong went there. She had been doing some work when her friend did not arrive. She said, I asked him to go, and he did. That was her version. I asked her to read it as part of the records. It's just a very detailed narration of what happened on January 17. She repeated that in a verified petition. She executed just a day or 2 later. It's the same thing. And the court noted that she also executed a February 27, 14 narration, and of course her 3rd complaint. And the inconsistencies were too great for the court to ignore it.
Yeah. Tinanong mo ba, Attorney Malyonga, because the media, of course, wasn't able to, witness your cross-examination, or meron po ba? Meron bang pinayagan po sa loob?
No, unfortunately, no.
Wala, no.
But I would be very happy, no?
I would say
at some point in time for the record of the hearings.
Yes. I believe that the court should allow media people, like they do in the United States, to
Yes.
actually write about the hearing, write about the cross-examination. I mean, you even have Johnny Depp and Amber Heard live, right? Because then you would know how the actual trial is going. Pero tinanong niyo po ba sa kanya, bakit mo kinasuhan ngayon lang? Gayong you've already issued sworn affidavits, and during the time that the alleged incident occurred, you could have actually brought him to court.
Yes. Actually, when she said that she was embarrassed to say it at the time, I said, we made a narration of all the events, the timelines. The fact that Mr. Navarro had actually publicly come out with what happened, including their consensual sexual encounter on January 17. And yet she came out with her complaint affidavit. It came out 2 days later. She did not mention it at all.
Yeah.
And the court also said...
And she was interviewed by the media before, am I correct? Yeah. She was interviewed, if I remember, I'm not sure if she was on Head Start, but several members of the media were able to speak with her.
There was one specific interview that we presented. That was an interview made in another channel.
Ano yun, ma'am? Can you share?
The interview with Cara David.
Okay.
Where this was already, I think, a January 29 interview after Mr. Navarro had already spoken. And she narrated what happened, and specifically, and this was the portion that we showed. She said, yes, nakita kami noong January 17, pero walang nangyari. And she was
Sinabi niya yun.
Yes,
Sinabi niya yun sa interview. Okay.
Yes, very specifically. The court also noted, of course, that she could not explain why she was so scared. Precisely in her decision, the court said, why should she be scared to talk about the January 17 incident when she had already spoken about the January 22 incident? And the court also noted, because I brought this out, she had, as I said, multiple sworn declarations. At the end, she suspected that she was drugged, but I confronted her with at least 5 sworn declarations where, to the question, did you drink any wine that Mr. Navarro offered? She said, I declined the drink. I declined the drink, I declined, until finally, 1.5 years later, in her third complaint, that's the first time that she said, I took a sip from the wine that was offered. And the court also took
her
note.
Sworn declaration said she did not touch alcohol. Okay, so given these inconsistencies, which are quite big when you think about it, isn't this enough to actually dismiss the charges, these new charges?
Well, this is the way our system works. What we did today, what we did in the last month, November, was only for the petition for bail, which means that Mr. Bong Navarro legally has only been granted temporary liberty, but the case continues. I do think that at this point it's already very clear to our mind that the prosecution is going to have a very difficult time because, as I said, the complainant's testimony is the most important. The principles that the court cited, which